Mayor and Council Workshop, October 8th, 2015.
So yeah, you take care of time. Things
No,
change.
10:30?
No, it's dial.
What time?
10:30.
Right, so I might
I'd like to call the meeting to order. Ask that the acting clerk please read the sunshine notice.
This meeting is held pursuant to New Jersey Open Public Meeting Act. Adequate notice of this meeting was advertised on January 11th, 2015 edition of the Trends and was provided to the Star Ledger, Daily Record, and North Jersey Herald News on January 11, 2015. Adequate notice of this meeting was also posted on the municipal bulletin board, filed with the acting borough clerk, and provided to those persons or entities requesting notification.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Frida?
Here.
Councilman O'Dowd?
Here.
Councilman Barish?
Here.
Councilman Campbell? Absent. Councilwoman Svenson?
Here.
Councilman Giantonio?
Here. Thank you, and welcome to our October workshop. Moving on to the Borough Attorney's report.
Mayor, I filed my report. We can discuss certain aspects of it in close, and of course, welcome any questions at that time.
And just, your report noted that the contract bid had been awarded for garbage.
It hasn't been awarded. It's
So
still on the
we're going
agenda.
to take action on that tonight. And you have a CFO should be kept in the loop. We have an acting CFO, which is just a minor correction to that, but I'll let you know, read it, Mark.
I appreciate that.
Moving on to the mayor's report this evening. A couple things for you. To start off, last meeting I had asked for input from the council regarding who we would like to go out for RFQs for professionals. And at this particular point in time, I have heard only from Carol and Adam, and our prospective new councilman. So I'm going to read off those positions that I think have been identified. They are the auditor, the municipal planner, the borough attorney, the labor attorney, the water and wastewater engineer, the zoning official, I'm sorry, I want to go to zoning official, it's a different appointment, and the last one, Delta Dental Representative and Oxford Health Representative. And the very last one is our risk manager, Frank Gavelli. So I know that last time we went out, ultimately what had happened, we had probably a bazillion copies. If you would like, we can ask for multiple copies, but I think it serves best business to at least evaluate where we're at. It does not mean that anybody that's currently serving as a professional ultimately is going to be replaced, but I think those are the positions that people have identified as wanting consideration on, and it is the mayor's appointment with advice and consent of council.
No, but the QPA should be on there.
Yes. Okay.
Should probably be the only one on there.
Only one on there?
Yeah.
Oh, we'll get a chance to talk about it. So QPA, anything else? Okay. Fair share housing plan. I think it's an open agenda item. I think that Burgess has responded, and ultimately that letter was circulated amongst the council. I don't know if it's a closed session item or not.
I would always prefer to talk about any of that in closed.
Okay, but I just wanted to let you know that in fact we have had some movement on that, so we'll talk about that.
Doing what the court orders require.
Right. I know Steve's not here this evening, but I've asked that department heads put forth draft budgets, so we're going to start that process a little bit earlier. I asked if they could provide draft budgets by November 1st, and the capital budget may in fact be not finalized, but in draft form along with the other pieces. Pilgrim Pipeline. I think this came before us at last month's meeting, where we had representatives who had put forth a request that we consider doing a ordinance. And There is a letter, a news article, October 7th. If you haven't seen it, I'll have Karen make copies. It's basically talking about the fact that the Pilgrim Pipeline now has received union endorsements, but it also takes note in the article that 28 towns along the route, along with both houses of the New Jersey legislature, have passed resolutions against the plan, as well as a coalition of 54 citizens. My concern, I shared this with Cliff and Carol, is that on September 13th, there was a news article saying that Oakland had taken some action on doing an ordinance, and the question is whether it's unknown whether the ordinance or a similar one adopted by communities including Madison, Parsippany, Chatham will have the legal teeth needed to hold the unpopular project. And the question in the article is, would it stand up to a legal challenge? And experts aren't sure. So Michael Darcy of the League of Municipalities, Executive Director, said although the national gas pipelines are federally regulated, all lines are typically regulated by the state, particularly with the DEP. A municipality's ability to use local land use laws against a pipeline hasn't been tested in court. So there have now been 40 government entities, including 44 county freeholder boards, have passed resolutions opposing the plan. Many as Mahwah, Oakland, Bloomingdale, Riverdale, Westminster, Wanacue, Kinnelon, and Riverdale on the pipeline's proposed path. The State Assembly has also opposed the estimated $1 billion project. So at least reaching out to Cliff, I think that this in fact could eventually end up in the court, and I don't know if we want to be joined in the matter at this particular point in time. I know that the legislature is moving forward with basically making Pilgrim go through the same public utility challenges. So the Public Utility Commission ultimately would decide, but in order to get there, I think that it requires some legislative action from Trend. But I'd like to hear what you think about that. I mean, ultimately, if it hasn't been tested in court, do we want to be a party to a court action at some point in time in the future?
Mayor, I'm curious if you have any information from any of your meetings or that thing with the Star Ledger. How does Highlands affect them? You know, we're protecting the water supply, yet we're putting in this pipeline?
They don't think it is in conflict. It's interesting because we did do the public meeting here, and there was a fair amount of discussion about that. When I talked to the editorial board from the Star Ledger, I made that point as well. I said, we only have one aquifer, and in fact, if you're transporting bulk and crude, which is highly volatile, how does that, basically shore up against the Highlands protection that we're under? And I didn't get a clear answer.
If I may, Mayor, what I think it is government agencies very often will have exceptions to things like pipelines and environmental requirements and all that stuff. Whoever passes laws usually excludes governmental entities from it, and even though this is not a governmental entity, their argument is they are a quasi-governmental entity being a sort of utility. So I'm sure that's how they're going to try and backdoor it, that basically we're providing a similar service as a public utility would, so the environmental law should not bar us from installing this pipeline. Whether that'll hold up or not, who knows?
But it sounds, at least by what I've read, and I don't know, Mark, if you have some additional information, that in fact the court ultimately will be involved with this at some point in time.
Oh, yeah.
You can certainly, I believe that's correct, but you can certainly adopt a resolution.
We have already.
And if we've already done that, the only question is, do you want to adopt an ordinance? And of course, again, be joined in some sort of challenge. And it is an ordinance that may not have any teeth, but it might express a certain position if you'd like to do that.
Well, let me
Certainly
ask
that's
you,
up to you.
Steve. Let me ask you for just some input though. What does the resolution versus the ordinance actually do? And that's a really a legal question.
The ordinance would be a change in it could be a change in our zoning law.
Right.
It could be, I believe when the woman was here discussing that a little more in depth, she was talking about the use of the local zoning power.
Right.
And of course, you can zone anything any way you want. Whether or not that's effective ultimately remains to be seen, and it would certainly be a challengeable ordinance. A resolution is a statement of our position, which I think has been pretty clear and pretty consistent. That, and we can renew that at any point, but of course has far less teeth than an amendment to the zoning ordinance.
That's what I remember too, Mark, that it would literally give the town power to just tell them,
No,
you're not putting your pipeline
you
here.
refuse to issue
anywhere
you
in
a
town."
permit,
Right,
and go to a board if you want a permit.
right.
So,
If I
I'm
could,
asking for input on this, because once again, just reading the, you know, the press on it, if it's not something that, you know, is gonna have a legal teeth to it, you know, why pursue it, I guess
And
that's the
even-
question.
I say, well, we don't know the answer to that just yet, but why are we gonna stick our nose in a fight that other people are taking on that will cost us money?
Right.
My opinion is we sit back, see what happens with everybody else. If it's found to be okay, then we enact our own ordinance after that. There's no reason, in my opinion, to get involved in it
To
at
be
this
the
point.
test case.
Well, if it works, they can't get here anyway.
Right, exactly.
If it's working in the other towns, they can't just not have a pipe and then pick one up here in Kinnelon.
Well, wasn't the point of that woman, not, I agree with you, let me put that first, but her point was that once they start the pipeline, it might be too late to pass the law, or the ordinance.
Right, but I think that's her point, but I'm looking and saying, okay, if Parsippany ultimately has passed an ordinance, and the pipeline's supposed to run along 287, and are they gonna jog it around Parsippany? They can't, so you know,
Right.
it just doesn't make sense, and there's already other towns that have kind of taken the lead here, and I'm not,
Well, that argument is the argument really as to why local zoning may or may not be the appropriate way to deal with interstate pipelines.
Right.
But obviously you have the zoning power and you're welcome to use it for whatever purposes you see fit.
So what's, any other comments or questions? I did, interestingly enough, not completely understand, we had a fireman who indicated that he thought this was the safest way to transport crude. Because the question was asked at the Pilgrim meeting was, what happens if there's a fire? There's basically automatic valves that shut down. And the question is whether or not we would have the support to really battle a pretty large oil spill fire. And that was a concern, but I think there's difference of opinion on that as well. And interesting enough, the day that I met with the Star Ledger editorial board was the day that a pipeline out in the Yellowstone River had basically been affected by frost heave and leaked a tremendous amount of crude into the Yellowstone River. Any other comments on whether or not we should pursue an ordinance?
If I may say so, that fireman does not represent the entire fire.
That's important.
Thank you, Mayor.
I say we don't do anything at this point. That's my home.
Yeah, I'm good with the resolution that we've already passed.
The next 2 points are pretty quick. I want to just say thank you to Adam. What'd you do, or what didn't you do? With Hurricane Joaquin, I was a little concerned that we, as a governing body, just had a window and an opportunity to basically move forward with some proactive steps to ensure that the town was well positioned to address the storm. And Adam just did an incredible job with basically putting forth a memorialization of emergency contact people, also a post and pre-storm assessment. We basically had just about every major arm sitting around this table. The Friday before, we had our smoke rise police, we had our police chief, our fire chief. We currently do not have an OEM coordinator, so I think Adam was kind of wearing that hat at that point in time. But for lack of a better way of putting it, I think DPW was there as well. John White had attended the meeting. I think that we are getting pretty good at storms, which is probably a good thing, but we have a long way to go. We did talk about the fact that we have used this building and this room as our call center, and we still haven't had it hardwired, and it's still not ready to go. So this is 3 years after Hurricane Sandy, Irene, Sandy. Yeah. So I think that, you know, we've got to talk about this as part of the technology upgrade for the building, and that was the one thing that did come to surface. And to reach out to Mr. Lampman and asked him how Butler Electric was doing. He was confident that they were ready to go as well. So, you know, as we learned in the last storm, I think there's resources out there, but ultimately we take the lead on storm preparation, and do a good job. I'll let Steve report on the Phoenix Finance Department assessment that went out to everybody. I think that you saw
When I do
that
my
as well.
report, yeah.
When you do your report.
Yeah, okay, sure.
And the administrative salary position adjustments, I just mentioned to the personnel chair, if we could hold that off until new business, I think that's where it belongs on the agenda. The next item I have this evening is the best practice worksheet, and I had Karen distribute this. This is going to be ultimately signed by Karen as acting clerk, Jen as the acting CFO, and myself as the chief administrative officer. The issue that we have with the report as it's been drafted is that we are below 80%. And what that's going to translate to is a loss of 1% of our state aid, providing that we're all in agreement with the answers as put forward. I know that Phoenix had received a copy of this as well. They had a comment on 3 separate items, and if it's okay with everybody, I'd just like to talk about those items that Phoenix identified, and then we can talk about whether questions you may have during the further discussion. They identified item number 8, if you have your report in front of you.
8 or 7?
8. It's on the bottom of page 2. And it says, does your municipality have, or is your municipality in the process of obtaining a community rating system ranking of at least a class 9? So we're not in the floodplain. I had received, I think, at least a couple of years ago, a call from a resident who wanted to ask why we had not received a CRS rating. And I said, well, we're not in the floodplain. And she said, well, my flood insurance is being negatively impacted because you have not, basically undertaken this. So I reached out to our borough engineer and said, okay, what is a CRS? And why do we need it? And so it is, I think this outlines it pretty clearly. This is out on the FEMA website. The CRS is a voluntary program for NFP and FIP participating communities. So we don't have this, and the questionnaire is very clear. Do you have a ranking, or are you in the process of obtaining one?
Was this like
So,
last year?
It was there last year, and I think it was noted as prospective. I think that's how Donna had filled this out. But once again, this is an expensive undertaking, and we're not in the floodplain. So I understand our residents' concern that we don't have a ranking here, but the economics may be part of what is dictating here, but we do have a couple of properties that in fact did experience flood situations. We had a home out on Forge Road.
Well, does
east
that
on
no change to a yes if I start making phone calls and contact the CRS coordinator who can assist us, et cetera, as through some of the OEM stuff?
It's a major, I don't know, I will tell you it's a major financial undertaking, at least that's because Tom Brody indicated to me that they've done it in Pumpton or some of the other surrounding communities. I don't want to speak
Well, therefore
for
the
them,
question,
so-
like, you have to have committed to doing the plan, or is it a matter of in the process of researching?
You need to appoint and salary a floodplain manager, which Tom may in fact be our designated floodplain manager, I'm not sure, but it is a significant undertaking, and the CRS system, just because we're going through it in another community, you see that it also requires you to comply with all of the requirements of the NFIP program, and there are a lot of them. And only by compliance with this, I believe, are you allowed to, can residents obtain the national flood insurance. And there are occasionally people who pop up and say, and in another community I represent, one person who says, wait a minute, my insurance is higher than it should be, because you don't have this system in place. Unfortunately, the system is inexpensive. I'm sorry. you
Oh, no,
interrupted,
you're,
but
I think
look at my
you're helpful, Mark. I mean, I think that, and that's really the question, you know, we're not in the floodplain, and if we don't do this, our residents that are interested in purchasing flood insurance, in fact, may be at a disadvantage. But I did go back and forth with a representative from Phoenix, and I said, I don't think this language is ambiguous. It says, do you have a ranking or are you pursuing? So,
class
so I think that one kind of speaks for itself. The other questions that were identified were question number 16. And 16 was originally, I think, in the original draft that was distributed, was put forth as a no. And I think Lou May looked at this with Jennifer as well. And I think that the language here that supports a yes answer is really under the underlined section where it says, or does your CFO present balanced and reconciled financial records? And that had to be done to complete the audit. So I think that, this one is a little bit gray, but I think that Lou put forth a decent argument as well as did Phoenix. So that one got changed to yes. And the other one that Phoenix identified was question number 31. And I know we're in transition here, but it says, do elected officials receive a written status report at least quarterly on all budget revenues and appropriations as they correspond to the annual adopted budget? And I think that there's been maybe some discussion, but not written reports.
Well,
So,
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Now's the time to talk about it.
We do get a list of what's been encumbered versus, I don't know if it's distributed in paper, but I believe there's a list of what's been encumbered each month and what's remaining in the budget, so we'll take a look at that.
Take a look at that one, Steve, but like I said, written status reports, I'm not familiar with those coming before the governing body.
What I'm saying is that report a written status report? The encumbered, to be encumbered, can we consider that a written status report? It is a status and it is written, so let's see if we can.
Yeah, well, and
Okay.
once again, I think these are discussion items, but
Absolutely.
we've got to file this by
October 16th.
October 16th, so that's the deadline. But here's the challenge here, and once again, because of the way that this has currently been drafted, we are hitting, I think, 78%.
We need about 2 yeses, I think.
I think 3.
3? Okay.
So we have right now 33 yeses, 11 nos, and
Was that after
six
after
and
that
eight.
last change?
After last change, yeah.
Because I thought the old one that I had on the web. Yep.
I think we moved from 76 up to 78.
The one that I gave you in your book is the correct one.
Yeah, no, but I was looking at the old one, and I thought the old one said 11. It said 11 no's before we changed number 16, I believe. I could be wrong.
You agree?
Well, here's the one.
This adds up on the computer itself, so I don't know. I know what you're saying.
Well,
Oh,
Steve.
maybe
Well-
16, maybe you gave me 16, I had already been corrected on this one. and then
Yes, it
you're
is.
abso- Okay, you're right, it
Yeah,
is.
it
All right,
is.
I'm with you now.
So
Okay.
12
Bob
no-
said it was no, I thought that's the earlier.
12 no's went
Right.
to 11 no's.
Gotcha,
And 32 yeses went to 33 yeses. But
okay.
the issue for us is that we received state aid, including our energy receipts, last year of just about $788,000. So when talking with Justin, the loss is 20% of the final 5%, which equals 1% of the total aid. So out of that aid, we're probably looking at just about $7,800, give or take. So, I don't know if you have questions. I know that I asked Karen to distribute this, but now's the time to really, give us a good look and see what was missed or what, we can have some discussion about it. But it is, once again, I think part and parcel of the fact that we're in a transition. But there are some things that, from a best practice survey, the state is definitely looking for us to have in place.
You want to
Sure.
talk about some issues now?
Definitely.
On number 7, I don't know that calculation by rote, but I understand, looking at it briefly, that there are some add backs when you calculate the 2% with regard to breakage, when you have, when some people retire and they're replaced by other people. It's not just a straight 2%, in other words. So before we finalize it, I'd like to look at that calculation and perhaps have Lou May look at it too, just to make sure. If it's a no, it's a no, but let's make sure it's right.
Oh,
Okay?
for all of it, sure.
Yep. Number 29, I think it's answered no, but we did discuss the budget and the surplus and the impact on the budget, both in committee and in public meetings, when the budget was introduced, and the fact that how much surplus there was, how much was going to be used for the budget, how much would be dedicated to next year, if we in fact, as we had said, we're going to use that surplus to keep the tax rate flat because of the reval. So I think we can make a strong case, and of course, you know, we can talk about it, that 29.
I think the question that I got stuck on here was, in future surplus balances for at least 2 future years' budgets.
Well,
And I don't know if we did that. I think we talked about next year in the reval, but I don't think we went much beyond that. I may be wrong about that.
Well,
The
go
budget
back and look.
didn't have a normal flow this year, and I think that may be the challenge there, but let's take a look at it, okay?
Number 46, which, and I only got, you know, I've only spent a certain amount of time on this, and maybe more, but I printed it in black and white. I can't see the numbers that are left on all of them. Let's see. 46 on the workman's comp. That may be prospective. We'll have to look at that
Okay.
and talk to maybe Brian Giblin.
Right.
Okay? And then my understanding is that we can appeal to the state, because there are two, and you pointed out one too, Bob, that I had missed, that had to do with not having a CFO. And 12, 20, and 28, as I went through it, are things that the CFO would have done. And being that we haven't had one, I think we're at least entitled to a phone call to the state, Division of Local Government, or I can find the exact person we should talk to, and perhaps appeal and get a pass on those questions, because of, as you said, we're in a transition, and that would change the ratio.
Okay.
If they throw those out of the total, or give us yeses, or take them off the total, that would change our ratio.
I can call
Okay.
down, I'll call down to DCA tomorrow, just to start that conversation. Okay?
Mayor, do you want me to call Brian on that other one that Steve mentioned?
Yeah, whatever we
46.
can do to support the
46.
survey. I want to make sure that, once again, you know, I'd like to see us in a position where we don't lose any aid, let alone a single dollar.
Right.
So whatever we can do to, you know, provide comfort for answers here that, you know, may not be what we actually have in place, I think is important, so.
All right, I'll call Brian on 46.
Okay.
Okay, great.
I'll contact Lou on those the ones that involve calculations, and make sure that we're good on them, okay?
Good. I have some items for closed, and the last item from my report is that Sunday is Pancake Breakfast, and it's going to be good weather, because usually it is rainy and cold, I think, for some of them.
Not really rain.
Okay, so once again, I think we're going to advertise that we don't have a boom truck anymore. And so there was discussion about putting the banner across Kinnelon Road, and that just didn't happen. So, you know, between Facebook and hopefully some of the other things, we can kind of let the public know to come out and support the fire company. So that's the end of my report. So now we'll move on to council committee reports, and we'll start with recreation. Councilman Freeman.
There's not much going on in recreation. All the sports are in full swing. Everything is doing well. We had 16 games canceled because of weather. That's, you know, so far, which is actually pretty good compared to last year. The new field is doing great. All of the sod has rooted. You know, and we've already cut it twice and fertilized it yesterday. Now we're getting ready to aerate it, so it's doing great. The field itself, that'll be our next project, is the game field. I think if we do the proper aeration and seeding, it should be fine as well. Registrations are opening soon for winter sports. One of the problems we're having right now with winter sports is we play a lot of games on Saturdays and Sundays. Sundays especially, just to make up games. The custodian price used to be $27 per hour for a custodian for Saturday and Sunday. And now the new fee per hour on Saturday is $37 an hour and $49 for Sunday. So with that being said, we will not be able to utilize the Sunday hours, and the cost would be approximately $600 a week to use the custodians for Saturday. It's imperative that we have them there on Saturdays. You know, maybe it's a conversation we need to have maybe with the coordinating committee with the Board of Ed. Maybe figure out a way to put a custodian on a Saturday versus us paying them overtime on a Saturday, but I don't see that happening. Besides that, like we'll start, Melanie and I are done with this field. Now we're going to move over to KRP, start doing some research on irrigation and trying to figure out what to do over there next. So you'll see if you go by the fields, Todd's doing well on his list. He's painted all the doors at KRP. That building's starting to look better. He did some work down here on the bathrooms. He's working on the bathrooms over here. So he's slowly ticking away at everything. He's doing a fantastic job.
Just be aware, Jim, the well will not support irrigation or KRP, so
Yep.
that's just a little bit more of a challenge. So.
Yeah, it will be. And again, we maybe need to reach out to our engineer and find out what it would take to make that happen. So.
You mean to make a well that would support
Yeah.
irrigation? Yeah.
There's 10 gallons a minute.
That's what you need, or that's what you have?
That's what it has.
So we have to find out what it needs.
What it needs
How to
to,
get there. If it's-
And it might be that we can, water one part of the field and, one head or something, and I don't know. I'm not we're a sprinkler professional, but we can figure it out. It's in my report.
Thank you, Jim. Moving on
Just
to
real quick for Jim, I didn't check back with Mel. We talked a couple weeks ago. I don't remember, I think it was our idea to get Todd to do a log of what days we're doing what, so we know when we're aerating, when we're fertilizing, when it's raining, so that we can look back and see.
Yeah, I can ask her that. I know
results
she's
or bad results,
Yeah, I know she's been on top of it. I can ask her if she's.
Yeah, she's probably done it. I just haven't had a chance to talk.
He's really, he called it the other day at 10 after 4, saying, hey, I just came back to put a wet paint sign on it, so he's really taking a lot of pride in what he's doing, so I'm very excited for him. Him and Bill Allen and I call him Billy Yago, just doing a fantastic job, the three of them as our field people.
Yeah, they were redoing pictures, man, at BAF
Yeah.
when I was doing pickleball there the other day.
Yeah, so they're really taking a lot of pride in it, and the three of them are working together well and doing a great job. So
Do you know how to play pickleball?
it's too easy for me. I like more challenges.
You play
the press is here tonight, you know that, right?
Well, I gave up exercise for Lent.
You should have seen him out in
In
each other's
89,
mistakes once in a while.
In '89, I think it was. But, no, it's actually Melanie keeps asking me to play pickleball. I'm embarrassed to go out there, and we'll probably get beat by Melanie. So but I will be out there to play pickleball.
Well, apparently the game is so easy you could show up with a suit on and play. You got,
Yeah, I was dressed for work.
But it is, it's progressively, each week it's building more and more, so I think the first time Adam was there, I think they had like 6 people, and then they went to 12, and I think this time we had 18 today, so the words, it's picking up, so it's good exercise for people, and we used all the equipment from the high school, so it didn't cost us anything.
That's great.
Unless the pickleball people get a little rowdier and start breaking rackets and stuff, then we might replace something.
Thank you, Jim. Moving on to Public Works and Utility Council, President O'Doherty.
As we noticed, the construction, it's coming along. The building is up. I'd say we're a month behind schedule. It's not gone according to plan and not gone into according to what we have wished. The interior walls are up inside. The plumbing's all rough. The furnace and the ductwork is not present in the old structure. It was supposed to be there already. And the windows and doors are not present. which is a serious issue. I was with their main person that's in charge committee today, and she told me, well, she bounced the check for the witness. So therefore, that's why they're not in place. So, which was very disappointing. She admitted that to us, and so therefore, but they're looking for a check, of course, because their checks, what they do is when they get a check, they pay what's going on. So I can understand that, and this is what can happen with the low bid process, which we were well aware of when we accepted the bid. They've asked for, they've submitted their bill, and we have it on our bills list for $132,523. I don't know how soon we can get that moved to them. I mean, that's been approved by our architect, who is very stringent in and make sure that everything is in compliance with their contract. He is very good. Fox and their representative, Fred Wawa. So what he has done is, he's stated that yes, the work has been completed for that $132,000. That's on 15-00759. So I don't know if we can expedite that check to them to make sure that we keep continuing what we're going.
I wanted to ask you, Dan, if in fact you think this would be helpful, and the architect in fact has approved the disbursement, we probably can take action on that single item tonight. Okay, if your recommendation is to do that, and the finance chair is comfortable with that.
I mean, we do have provisions in our contract. If they don't relinquish that building to us complete by December 1st, there's penalties involved where we get monies back. Okay, so.
But we want the building
We
done.
want the building, we need
So-
the building, that's the important thing.
Okay.
You know, we have the doors going, you know, the garage doors, as you can see, have been, they're in place. We just need more.
Why don't we take action on this tonight? If someone wants to offer approval of a bill for the improvement to the DPW building, $132,523.44, with the stipulation that it has been in fact approved by the architect for disbursement.
I'll make that motion,
I hear a second.
as long as the architect had the AIA forms signed off on.
Yeah, I'll
it's gotta be
second
paid
that.
anyway.
I have a motion and second. Roll call, please.
Councilman Frida?
Yes.
Councilman O'Dowd?
Yes.
Councilman Barrett?
Yes.
Councilman Cobell?
Yes.
Councilwoman Senti?
Yes.
Councilman Giantonio?
Yes.
Plus the acting clerk to notify the acting CFO that we need to cut a check tomorrow. And
Couldn't act and check.
Yes, they were supposed to have the first section completed by the 15th, but if you look over there, you could tell it's not gonna be done by the
if it's
15th.
a storm situation, I looked at the building, Dan, we'd just blown right through. It would have gone in
Exactly.
one day out.
In the front and out the back.
Right.
That was the plan.
Okay. As far as our DPW, we finished Booton Township today with our shared services, which was greatly received by them. We've been over there working in Bloomingdale yesterday, and we do a swap service with them. Sometimes we get our vehicles repaired by them, and we go over there and clean some catch basins that are necessary. Tomorrow we're mowing one of their fire pits, which is overgrown right now. We got 2 more weeks of doing our basins. We've been preparing our trucks for the winter, of course. We do have 2 people out, okay? One on family leave, which are going out on family leave, which hurts the fact that we're entering into winter and we don't have personnel available. I mean, without mentioning any names, they are entitled to that.
How long
We
will they
do.
be out?
We don't know, at least 6 weeks on one. He has a communicable disease, and he's been asked not to show up to work, and he has to report back with that he is cannot come back with a communicable disease that can infect other employees from the borough. So that's one person, and the other person we're not sure. He has some major family issues and problems with health, so, and it's really a terrible situation. At any rate, they've been going to both be out. So we're really in need of a person. We have a part-timer who has a very valued employee of the borough for the last 2 years as a part-timer. He'd love to become full-time. He actually interviewed with a couple of municipalities, this person, this individual. And I feel that we don't want to lose this person. So I'm going to ask the council if we can vote on hiring him full-time. It'll be a position, he's now making approximately $12 an hour. And he would be moved up to $17.95. It'd be comparable to what other municipalities are paying him, but we'd have to offer him more than 1 year. He's been with us 2 years. The initial salary comes in at 16, I believe. So if we offered him as a 1 year longevity,
Getting credit for
it
1
would go
year.
up to credit for 1 year, it'd come up to $17.95 an hour for the individual. But the individual has been doing an excellent job. He's one of the field personnel that has been doing an excellent job on the fields, and I'm asking that if we could vote on that tonight, we might be able to maintain this person as an individual for the borough without going out and having to research and train somebody else. The person, when he's told what to do, goes out and does the fields and lines them and does everything else. So,
And the
you know what I'm saying, as an individual.
And the superintendent has made a recommendation to the committee that he wants to retain this
Correct.
person.
So, but if we do it, we probably have to vote on that tonight again as another issue, because if we want to maintain him, otherwise we might lose him to a neighboring municipality. He interviewed today he took today off and interviewed for two different municipalities.
So you just budget it for next year when they come back.
Okay, the chair has made a recommendation that we offer a part-time person, part-time DPW employee, full-time employee status at 1 year service. And you're sure about it, $17.95?
Yes.
1996.
1793.
93, yeah.
17.93.
Sorry.
Okay, just want to get it right. And it's with the understanding that the DPW superintendent has indicated that this is someone that we would like to retain. So this motion is really to offer current employee full-time status in DPW at 1 year service. Discussion, someone offer that, please?
He's working now currently with Todd, and nothing but great things about it.
Would he stay in that position?
Yes.
Someone offer that, please?
Yep.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, roll call.
Councilman Frida?
Yes.
Councilman Wodarity?
Yes.
Councilman Barrett?
Yes.
Councilman Clavel?
Yes.
Councilwoman Senti?
Yes.
And Councilman Giantonio?
Yes.
Thank you. That's your last one for tonight, Dan.
No more action items?
Having what for voting on tonight?
We spent $200,000.
Okay, today we also had a safety meeting, okay, which was excellent. We got some excellent reports from our GIF. Our rating stays the same. Kinnelon's out of 42 municipalities that participate in GIF. Kinnelon's number 8. We have a very low percentage rate as far as people being injured and out of work. For the last 2 years, we've had 0, 0. Okay, before that, I think we had 1. So that's why we're number 8. Otherwise, we'd be at number 1 right now. And that's excellent. They also have that loss control report, which they give us, which tells us a lot of different things about our municipality, and it reviews the construction that we're doing. We're in compliance with everything that's been going on, and they told us that it's very unusual when you get a loss control report that tells you that you don't have anything to correct. And we have what's stated as new suggestions for improvements. No new suggestions for improvements at this time. They've gone over the fire department, the police department, the DPW, the facility here, and they don't have any recommendations for us to do anything. So, from our insurance company, which is excellent. What they did ask today was for the fire department to come up with a number on that they have fixed, because it's a 15-year-old vehicle, the pumper, and they said if you can get the monies and everything that we've done by resolution, okay, to repair that vehicle, they will insure it as if it's a new vehicle. So this way we can get them, if anything happens to the vehicle, we would be backed up in the coverage for it. So they did ask that. So Gail was going to do that today. And some of their online training was very interesting. I mean, we have this new global harmonization system, which is airborne pathogens. which is something that they feel very concerned with in the future, that people, that can be injured by it. So they've recommended training for different people and different resources, and they do have that in place, so.
Dan, I know you just got the report today, but could you give it to Karen so we can copy and get it out to everybody?
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, and other than that, the meeting went very well today. Safety meeting? What time? Oh, that's it. Thank you, Mayor.
Dan, one thing on the DPW, because you made me get up early this morning to go to that meeting, so. I was pretty impressed with the fact that all the contractors on the job said that the equipment that they're putting in is beyond what's necessary. Door springs, wiring, all high-end stuff that's gonna last a long, long time, and that was just nice to hear. I know
Yes.
it was a little bit negative on how quick they're getting done.
Ken
but-
Fox designed the building, and through his engineers and everything, the person that we hired to do that did an excellent job.
Good.
The wiring and everything else is far above specifications that they've required in the structure, so we're gonna have a structure that's gonna remain for a long time.
Great.
We just need to complete.
Dan, you'll reach out to the contractor, let me know that we're going to issue a check so that you can...
I will reach out and I will notify the contractor, and I'll notify John first thing in the morning.
Great.
About the new employee.
Thanks, Dan, appreciate it. Moving on to public safety and technology, Councilman Barish.
I would like to hire 5 people for,
If Dan presents it, we'll consider it, but yes.
all right, thank you, Mayor. I'm gonna ask, I'll talk to the committee later, the Public Safety Committee. I'd like to get together this week coming up, talk about some details on Tanker 33 and some other issues, non-emergent with police and emergency services. So it's just a general announcement. From the police, Chief Schwartz indicated that he's got a citizen award he would like to present next week. That I can get on the agenda. I don't want to spill the beans on that, so I won't give you any more details. Also, I was talking to him today, and we're going to work on together, again, this will be part of the PSC meeting, a 5-year capital plan and budget forecast based on his known factors and projected needs, i.e. Vest replacements, AED upgrades, retirement we have pending, and new hires and how that might all affect it. So he was pretty positive about that, so we'll have that discussion and begin working on some numbers. Fire department, you already talked about the pancake breakfast. That's this Sunday, the 11th, 7 a.m. to noon, $8 a person, $6 for seniors. The garage sale was moved from last week. We got rained out, so that is from the auxiliary. That's on October 10th and runs most of the day. Maps are available at most of the major outlets, the deli being one of them, and also at the firehouses that day. What else? We're still waiting to hear back from the QPA. I've been talking to Karen about that earlier. From the last meeting last month, we have not heard back yet to give us the due diligence on the Houston Galveston co-op. So I think you were pretty
I have no
positive
problem.
about it as long
In
as
fact,
she's good with it.
Correct.
Or he.
In fact, I went on their website, compares very, very similar to the
Can we
Pennsylvania
terminate
one.
her contract? I talked to a QPA from Newton, and she said she'd be willing to step in halfway through this. Because I've even asked her questions, because I'm tired of waiting for whoever we have to get back to me. She never does. You have to physically go there into her office to get her to answer your question. There's got to be a way out of this contract.
Well, when does it end? We end at the end of the year?
31.
Okay, so,
Should I wait it out?
I know there is a date in there of, I believe, November 21st, when something changes, the prices go up 12% based on the way the contract works, but I mean, it is what it is at this point.
Right. This one was very, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Aaron, but this was very similar to the Pennsylvania one. If you look at their list of municipalities in New Jersey that they've worked with, it's really alphabetical order of New Jersey municipalities.
Right.
And I've also gone on the website and compared their legal requirements to they can do no less than what New Jersey requires, and apparently they don't. It's apparently
So
a good
would we
organization.
be okay to maybe go approve that next week?
I'm comfortable with it.
And
I
then
would always also say
keep that
CPA,
going, keep that inquiry in there.
QPA you know, come back also with a response. But I thought they looked like a quality organization that didn't concern me.
I think our auditor cited it as an issue as far as getting the QPA to review any contracts.
Plus, could it be pending QPA approval so that we don't have to wait until the next month? I just would hate to see us lose an advantage.
Mark says he's okay with it from a perspective. Let's
We've
just
done
see
other
what-
resolutions.
You can get, I mean, you can
Had
get out of it for
various
free, I
approvals.
mean, there's no.
Yeah, there's no cost to get
No
into it, right?
obligation, you're not gonna cut a check until you get the QPA's.
I mean, we
You
know
can do
what the
anything
price is
tonight.
gonna be.
Yeah.
Let's put it on for next,
Yeah, let's try to make
next
head.
week with a understanding that it's subject to.
And Melanie went down and talked to her last time, right?
Yeah, she had
Maybe I can
physically
stick her
told her,
on
yeah.
her again for that.
She'll go down there, but it's ridiculous that we have to do that.
Yeah, all right, we'll do something about that. So that's it for public safety. Under technology, infrastructure, the IT committee has been copied on emails going back and forth. I turned up the heat on them a little bit. We have a conference call scheduled for tomorrow morning. I actually filed a complaint with the FCC about them stonewalling. I cited both cooperative communication and affiliated. I think I even copied you on it.
I've been in the loop the last 3 or 4 days.
It's just, I mean, this started in January, you know, that we started trying to get this completed. I think it actually started last summer,
You're
right?
talking about the
with
phones and
the
the
phones.
phones, yeah, the phones have been.
Yeah,
part
so-
of it.
It started, I think the resolution that we found online through the minutes was, pardon my voice, October in 2014.
Right, it was October 14, yeah. So I've been really turning the heat up and hopefully I got their attention this time.
Okay.
And the
You're certainly
FCC
getting
that I
a
spoke to,
response.
yeah, the FCC said that they have 30 days to reply and that they are on top of it. It's not just fluff. So, you know, I talked to them, I did what they said online and hopefully we'll have something to report Thursday. Hopefully everybody's experienced what I have, which is that email has stayed up pretty much since the new server's in, so that's been a real positive. PD is almost complete. They changed some computers, I think yesterday and today, and they will experience the same speed and reliability that we're all seeing. Let's see, as far as the IT committee, you know, I'm also planning in the coming months, since there is no IT department head to come up with a budget number. Let's forecast some needs. You know, we know that we pretty much upgraded our entire computer, server, PC, licensing infrastructure, so I'll ask Zaffer to just review if there's anything that's been left out other than from that package. Certainly, you brought it up before, it's a good point about the EOC upgrade, so this room as far as wiring for phones. We talked about putting a TV here with, so we could run the news. We need outlets, there's only one outlet in this room, so you know, I'll talk to John, I guess, to get some numbers on what that might cost us and get that
You're
into
talking about
extras.
generator too, right?
The
To
new
support this
generator, we
building?
need the gas
Support this
generator.
building?
Right,
Gas-
right. This
gas-
generator's
natural
going over
gas
there
fired
potentially,
generator?
and then, right, and wire this room into the generator.
But I thought we authorized,
Is that already
I
happening?
think that's already happened. If we look back in that, I believe that's somewhere that we've already authorized that generator.
I'm pretty sure that's
Yeah.
something that the,
Have we not?
Yeah.
So is that in with the DPW project, or is that a separate?
It's
It's a separate entity,
Separate.
but we
It's part of the
authorized that
capital.
right after,
Part of our capital.
The storm,
Yeah.
yeah.
the storm.
Okay,
So it's part of the capital budget.
all right.
I think we were talking about a generator that would support most of this building, not just a room or two, because, you know, you're talking maybe a warming center or shelter,
Right.
using the building for a lot of things should have power. Natural
Right.
gas fired generator. We discussed
So
that.
who heads that up? Just saying where to go with that.
First and foremost, talk to Mr. Whitehead, see if he's got any numbers, and then we've got to talk to Jennifer and have her check the capital plan to see if we put it in there a couple years ago, so.
Okay.
But I thought that we had talked about giving the diesel generator over to the school system, and I may be wrong about that, because if you recall during Sandy, we were using Stony
Keel.
for just basically a warming center, so maybe we can share something with
Which
the
at that point,
board
the
that-
heat wasn't even attached.
Right, but maybe that's something we can
They have
share
a
with the board.
generator running outside of it.
Yeah.
It's possible. You know, I can check with John and want to make sure what's going on with it, but he would know best.
Okay.
We could when we did it.
Excellent, so maybe we'll have more for next week between
Yep.
Dan and me. Also, I'd like to gauge interest through this commit, through IT and the Public Safety Committee, and I know it's a contentious issue, is putting a similar digital sign that we have out front here over by the Company 2 Firehouse, which currently the borough owns. You know, I know that there's an issue with the Stony Brook school sign, with when it's on and when it's off and how bright it is. And there's other concern about the proliferation of the digital signs throughout the town, which I'm completely on board with. But I also want to provide for the residents that are on the other side of town that don't come through Kinnelon Road. And the amount of information that they're putting out there, I commented today to Jen Hires and to Melanie that they're ahead of me. Like, I'll be thinking of stuff that should be up there, and I drive by and it's already there. The fact that they have a big thing about date change for the garage sale. You know, the pancake breakfast happened automatically. The workshop meeting being announced was on there. You know, they have this stuff automatic already, and you know.
Well, I also sent an email to you that there was someone had given me the idea of using the
Let me read
digital.
further down.
Okay.
And ultimately, thanks to Carol's idea, develop a list of contacts for changeable signs around the borough, i.e. churches, et cetera, so we can get emergency notices out across town and potentially direct them to, you know, the website or wherever for information. So, you know, I talked about it early in the year, kind of a global thinking on different ways to get stuff out. Facebook, of course, the website, we have these signs, so I'd like to explore that at least.
Can I ask a question as far as the request? Is anybody getting any complaints about the signs, other than maybe Stony Brook just being a little bright?
Even that I haven't heard in many months.
I haven't heard anything either.
I think
mean,
they've toned it down a little bit.
They did.
So let me ask a question the other way. Has anybody heard that people like the signs
No.
and they're providing good information?
From a library aspect, I've heard that people appreciate being told what the programs are coming up. And as I said to Adam, there was ideas as to other ways to use them. I think it was like kind of a getting used to period. They were so new and out there in everybody's faces that now people are starting to get used to them and probably see the benefits of them.
Karen, any
You know, and we
comments?
did finally get the fonts the same, the colors are the same, they're readable. You know, we've really narrowed down a lot of
Yeah.
things.
I don't know if you looked into it or will if we go forward with anything, but I understand the library is looking into powering their sign with solar.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting, okay. If you wouldn't mind passing that information along. As we-
Okay. As soon as I get information from
But
them.
yeah, that's something that I'm just thinking, you know, we'll put our toe in the water, ask the question, so if we can collect some data, ask the community what they think.
And well, and if we're in agreement, just as a body, you know, just to move forward on it, just, I don't think anybody's objecting to at least exploring.
I mean, the vision is to have whatever is on this mirrored over there, so, you know, with one tap, it would go by internet over to the other side of town and over there.
Well, the good news is that they have natural gas generator over at Company 2 too.
Sure,
So,
that's a good
you know,
point.
in a power situation, you'd have ample power supply.
All right, so pursue getting
If
some
it's
numbers
solar,
on that.
If it's solar, to be.
If it's solar, okay, I will pursue
Make
that.
money on it.
How much sun during the storm?
Okay.
Always the naysayer.
Real quick then, on the website, we've installed a new ticker. I had that done over the weekend. It wasn't, we had talked about it in preliminary for design. It wasn't there when I went to use it for this pending storm. I was gonna put up some notices, so that was handled last weekend. I got it turned on, so Jen Hires now has access through the back end tool, the dashboard. So she activates the ticker. We get about a half-inch red line across the top of the website. You can have up to 3 notices or 3 links. We can send them to local, state, county, federal websites or documents within the town. So, you know, again, we can send out a nixle, a text caster, put it on the bulletin boards pointing to the website, and it's nice and bright, but still, you know, maintains that professional look that we have. So that is now in place. Well, I'll probably throw a test up there a few times, so if people want to see it next week, you know, but, you know, emergency, you get a test on there.
Like what the next pickle game is.
Next pickle game, exactly. You know, the idea is road closures, power outages, storm warnings, you know, so that, you know, it's not a cry wolf kind of thing, and when they see it, it's important. Carol's thing, we talked about already. That was it for technology. One kind of piece of that, I've heard different comments about the files that are accumulating in the far side in the conference room there.
That's me.
Yes, me too, and you, and I think we had a meeting in there. and just concerned not only about, you know, the fact that that's not a storage room, but, you know, there's privacy issues there, there's security issues. So this was a company that I talked to last year at the League of Municipalities, which is of course coming up soon. They're on the state contract. I think there's one other company that's on state contract for document storage. You can see, you know, you can send it and call for the files. They bring them back, you know, the same day.
Well, we have room in storage right now for them.
Right, we do.
We just need John to take it there.
But
And then-
I think the issue is that we're pulling permits and open requests, and you're saying no, so what's the issue?
That's the issue, because I
Access.
shook
Right.
my head no to you because of putting it
Right.
in storage.
But I think we need to tell Bloomingdale that she shouldn't be doing Oprah requests for building stuff. That's their responsibility. So we're leaving it here for her to do the Oprah request, but they should be doing it.
And they
It
just
is-
built the building for document storage, no?
I am the custodian of records, but when an Oprah request comes in, I'm supposed to hand it to the
Right.
person that's supposed to get it, so
Which is the
instead of
building
us
board.
doing the boxes and things
She
like
shouldn't
that,
have
I
to
would
go
ask
down to our
Bloomingdale
storage area
to
and
do
pull out.
it and pull the permits and everything else, have them copy it and answer the Oprah request,
Right.
or send it to me and I'll answer the Oprah request.
It should come back to you.
Yes.
So that you can copy and be
Exactly.
aware of the documents provided, then go out
But
under
she
your
shouldn't be
signature.
searching for it.
Well, no, apparently if it's
That's
part of
what
our deal
Gail
with
and I do.
Bloomingdale, well,
Yeah,
I mean,
that's-
I don't know the terms of our deal with Bloomingdale, but it would seem that they're in control of the documents. But again, I don't know what the deal is between us.
But
and
isn't
them.
Karen the custodian?
She's custodian records no matter where they're kept.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right,
The question is who does the searching?
right.
But either way, whoever does the searching, it has to come back to you.
Back to me, and I reply to the Oprah request as
Absolutely.
who asked me something.
Correct. Now, who does the searching? I don't know the answer to that. That's,
Well, if they're in charge of our building department and all of the files and everything
Right,
that's
they control
created
the files.
because
Seems
of it.
like we'll load them up and drop them off.
No, there's a storage.
I know, it's not quick, we'll not get that way. I'm just,
No, but I mean, we need to do that, and then maybe Mark or the mayor send a note to Bloomingdale saying, hey, this is, you guys are responsible
we
now.
pass you the
But
open
I think Adam's point's a good one. We really need to start thinking about storage electronically. I think that it probably should be up in the cloud and,
We brought that up numerous times years ago, and we found that it was so expensive to do that, to put it on
Which-
microfiche, they want a lot of money to do all that.
It's a different world out there.
Yeah,
The way
it
the
is.
technology
Maybe
is
it's-
microfiche
maybe
was
it's-
expensive
maybe-
back in the old days, but then.
Maybe it's easier today, I don't know.
we put right next to Hillary's server emails up in the cloud, you know.
Exactly.
Well, Karen also has to look at our retention schedule, because we may have a lot of documents that we don't necessarily have to continue to archive. Before we make some of those decisions, there's a whole statute on retention schedule.
We have to, we should get permission from DCA to.
We
Oh,
did
so
it.
Karen's aware of it, okay.
We did it already, we got rid of a lot of stuff that was up in the attic.
So we've
Police
pared
did that too
down.
now.
right, good.
Yes.
Well, yeah,
Pared
the
down
police did the
costs.
same thing.
So maybe we go at this two ways then. One, we'll look at trying to give this stuff to Bloomingdale to store, and at the same time, whether, you know, I do it at the show, because I'm gonna go 2 days to that convention, or make a phone call, I can start looking into electronic storage, physical storage, you know, at least have some numbers to discuss, because like you said, I mean, it is sometimes pennies now to store this stuff online.
Bloomingdale may not, if they've already done this. We should find out from them.
Yeah.
And to the compliment of the staff, we passed our fire safety inspection. We did have a little bit of a fire load up in the attic at one point in time. I think the mayor took all his old pictures out of there, so we relieved a little pressure on the attic, and I think we passed.
I didn't have anything up in
You
the
didn't
air.
have any pictures up there?
I won't tell you where it wasn't in the attic.
But
So,
how do we want to say, whatever was up there, apparently we were able to address, and the police did a good job of straightening it out, so.
Want me to call Bloomingdale?
Sure.
Take one of your jobs?
Please do.
All right, yeah.
Can you talk to me first before you call it?
Yes.
All right, that's all I have, thank you.
Thanks. Thank God. Moving now to finance, Steve.
Thank you. I met with the CFO this morning because I know there was concerns, rightfully so, because of the lack of staff that we have. And I made sure, and I can report that our major bank accounts have been reconciled through August, and September should be done by the end of next week. The statements only came in today, so I couldn't expect September to be done, but I actually looked at and read over the August reconciliations, and, you know, without doing a full-blown audit on them, they do look quite, they look like bank reconciliations, they're correct. I met briefly and spoke briefly with Jason and Joe, I think his name is, from Phoenix Consulting. John is the second?
John.
John, okay. I got the J right. And what they, we can talk about the not the proposal, but the scope of services that they've outlined. But as a practical matter, meeting with them this morning, they were interviewing our staff here. And he said by this time next week, maybe a day earlier than a week, he will have a report for us, preliminary report to go over with at least the mayor and myself, and of course we can have a third person there without quorum. But as soon as that's ready, he's going to let me know and shoot everybody a copy of it, and then we'll sit and meet.
Can I just interject a quick comment? Because I talked to Jason today, and he said he identified, I think, the first challenge is, he said, you got to get some people in the building.
Yeah.
You got to, it's a resource issue. It's the fact that we really have gone to critical mass level, and I know under consideration under consent agenda is the hiring of a tax collector because he felt that that was an immediate need, and so
That was through him.
That was
this
through
tax
him.
collector, yeah.
So
Yeah, we have to have someone assigned and get those reports done timely.
right.
Is that a part-time position or is that a full-time position? I saw that resolution.
I understand he's going to be looking at an hourly.
It's going to be, I believe it's just going to be hourly, and it'll be the minimum that we need to have, but legally we have to have somebody on as a tax collector and to sign the reports that have to be signed. So we have to have someone, and this is the way to do it right now.
But we've been advertising
Well,
also for
I'm
that
going
tax.
to get
Oh,
there.
all right, I'm sorry. I just happened to see
Still in
that, so I
December.
brought up tax collector.
It's building up to
I
that.
was,
Sorry.
I'm
sorry.
As of yesterday, we hadn't heard back, but I was glad to see that by this evening, we have two potential licensed tax collectors scheduled for interview with the Finance Committee on the 13th, 6:30 and 7. I guess you,
I have it on my calendar.
everybody's have calendar, so hopefully one of them or both of them are just out of sight and everything works out and we have a tax collector. But I think we should still keep the ad out there because there's no guarantee, as we've seen in the past with the CFO and other positions. All right, with regard to the, I looked over the scope of services and the executive summary that Phoenix provided, and they've covered everything that we could possibly need as far as help. I think, and one of the things I was glad to see that they put in here is that they're going to provide these services as deemed necessary by all parties. So they understand that they're not just going to walk in and start running the clock. We're going to have to talk about with them what they're going to do, how long it's going to take, and then we'll be receiving status reports. And I know last meeting Bob said he'd be on top of it along with myself, and we will monitor them continuously as to their progress, their time, what they're doing, what they think has to be done going forward. But this is just what they sent us was a without really thinking about it, I can't see any function of the CFO's office that they have not mentioned here. To segue into that, off of that, it's October. I'm going to talk to our acting CFO, and we'll obviously talk to Jason's group to see the support that they're going to give us and get the numbers on it. Start the budget process, at least get budget worksheets out there.
I reported before you came that I actually met with department heads
You started
on
that?
Wednesday, and
Okay.
I asked them to submit by, actually by November, November 1st, draft, because there was concern about capital budgets. They said that, and I said, listen, just submit it in draft format,
Okay.
but I want to get
Good.
started on it.
All right, we're all on the same page then. One thing I would like to talk to Phoenix about is they may have, because I do this at my clients, obviously, no, I don't do municipalities or government, but they may have a good set of forms to kind of standardize the input from the various department heads so that there's nothing, you know, that they, maybe they didn't think of something, but the form that Phoenix have may jog their memory and bring out some items that they maybe haven't thought about in the past. Although with the Edmund system, that's pretty good too, because it lists everything that's been spent and encumbered in the past. So I think we'll get some pretty good information, but it's the end of the year, we have to start the budget process as early as possible. The only other thing I have is Mark's working on that facing request, and when you let me know that there's no, or let us know that there's no legal prohibitions on the escrow account that they're holding on their mortgage that we co-signed, and we discussed it a few times, the numbers all support the fact that they just have too much money sitting there, and they shouldn't have to ask the residents there to kick in money to do a repair on a pool when they have that much in excess pile of money over the requirement of the bond. And the projection is they've been collecting on their debt service at a rate faster than they originally projected. So
The only thing I would need on that is a copy of
Copy
the
of-
original documents.
and that would be, I
I'm
assume
sure
Karen
they're
can
somewhere.
get you that?
Right, if somebody will scan me those, Karen, I'll give that a final review.
Because I know we spoke about it and you said unless you find something right in there.
Unless there's a
that-
reason not to.
Correct.
Certainly, in my
Okay.
opinion, we can do it.
And if we're gonna do that, I'd like to ask that, Mark, you also look at the Girl Scouts.
The Girl Scout camp, I meant to say that
Same
too.
agreement.
Same,
It's essentially the
same
same
thing,
agreement,
yeah.
but let's-
Although
let's
that,
do
theirs
what
is
we
for a
do.
different purpose, and theirs, they want to reduce the face value, the face amount of their letter of credit. They don't have an escrow account, they have a letter of credit, and as we all know, the face value of the letter of credit is what
Costs them
drives
money
the
every
cost,
year.
so if we can drop that down for them,
Correct.
they save a few
Right,
bucks.
so Karen, if you'll send me both of those, I'll be very happy to look at them and come up with an answer.
I don't believe I have anything else.
Thanks, Steve.
Mayor, I talked to you the other day about the tax collector, and I'm missing that one form that they said they need to fill out.
Right, one form needs to actually be signed by the tax collector, that's why we're gonna take action on the tax collector tonight.
So that's what I was gonna
They'll-
ask you if
they'll
you're gonna
take action on that form, because it ended
Start
up
that
on
right away.
Karen's desk, and we talked a
Okay.
bit about, but.
Yeah, I was thinking if we wait till next week, it's the 15th, and it's too late.
No, we have to,
Thanks, Steve. Moving on now to coordinating and open space. Karen.
Okay, this is an odd month because none of my committees have met before this meeting. Other than on Monday night, Mark and Jim and I met with, had a joint coordinating committee meeting with the Board of Ed. And an update from Mazer,
Mazer,
I always say that wrong, whoever they are, engineering.
those engineer guys.
Mazer has been pushing, but New Jersey DEP is slow to move. Mazer's environmental people have reached out to New Jersey DEP, who have still not come to revisit the site and look at the mapping to see if they agree with two things: the wetlands delineation or the roadside swale. Mazer was told originally to submit both to the Highlands application and the New Jersey DEP application at the same time, which they did in March or April of 2015. Highlands then said that due to pushback from third-party comments that voiced concerns regarding environmental, health, and safety issues, this is what extended the Highlands approval review to 30, 60, and then 90 days. Mazer finally got the Highlands designation in May of 2015. Mazer submitted the design and wetlands package with the plans. New Jersey DEP then rejected the application, saying they couldn't accept the original application because the New Jersey Highlands exemption had not yet been approved and therefore had not been submitted with an application to New Jersey DEP. New Jersey DEP did do a preliminary review of the application and came back and said that Mazer couldn't remember if it was in an email or conversation. Mazer had assumed that the percolation rate under the field, and said that Mazer would have to come back, have to back up the percolation rate with they projected by doing perk pits. They didn't want to do this to an active field. They didn't want to dig holes because it would ruin football, soccer season. Mazer then decided to resubmit the application and included the Highlands designation on 8/11, and it was logged in at New Jersey DEP on 8/13. The 20-day review period has passed and now seems to be getting a lot of non-action from DEP. Additional cost for this test would be, for the perk pits, would be $7,000. Both Paul Niehoff and Jim spoke to others in town as to what the cost would be to see if we could get a lesser price. And they all came back around the same number, but that number does not include a backhoe. Mazer said that they would ask DEP to do this work since they were right across the street. Mazer said that at the end of the day, the turf field is going to be installed at Kinnelon High School. DPW, you're right, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Everybody's paying attention. It's
And
Good.
this is a test with my rocky voice.
Kinnelon DEP is in the.
Kinnelon. We'll put the field in.
DPW, okay. It is just a matter of how much pain and suffering they're going to put Kinnelon through to get there. Question was asked, how long do New Jersey DEP permits last? And the answer was, so long as the governor continues to extend the permit extension period. Regarding a second borough resolution to reimburse the Board of Ed. The borough agreed originally to pay up to $30,000 in October of 2014. A comment was made that why would Board of Ed spend another penny if we don't know what we're doing? Board of Ed has already spent $26,000 on the original engineering study. If you want Board of Ed to finish the process, then we want the borough to approve the $6,000 overage, which was $6,000 over the $30,000 that we had approved in October of 2014, and the additional $7,000 for the perk testing. Mazer said hopefully this would be all that is needed. They want to get comments from New Jersey DEP so they can be sure that additional permitting wouldn't be needed for flood hazard or wetland mitigation permits. And we will get the permit, but we don't know if it will be only $7,000. Bottom line, Board of Ed is requesting that the borough pay the $6,000. Comments were said that it needs to get done since the Board of Ed is out of pocket on this amount already. The $6,000 is over the previously approved $30,000. With the $7,000, it would be at a total amount requested is $13,000, and this would enable Mazer to go ahead with the perk tests, so that as much information as possible is ready to determine the cost of the project. Would also help to frame a possible November 2016 referendum question. So the timeline would end up being a possible resolution for next week's council meeting to fund the additional $13,000 for perk tests, and dollars spent over the original resolution for $30,000. Mazer, I actually spelled it with a Z there, to get comments from New Jersey DEP as regards any additional permits that might be needed, and complete perk tests after the fall soccer season is over, which would be middle to late November. They still don't know if it would be 1 or up to 5 perk pits. And other than that, I was only going to mention that LaCole is having their Pathways tour this weekend, which after everybody goes to the pancake breakfast, they can go right over to LaCole and enjoy some of the history that they have gathered and will have on display that weekend.
Which includes a lot of fire memorabilia.
Yes, it does.
Can we back up to the coordinating committee meeting with the Board of Ed? So, your report indicated that they've spent $6,000 over and above
Yes.
the $30,000 that we had approved, and they want another $7,000 for
On top of that.
perk testing.
But they gotta check on other permitting first.
Yeah, before they do the perk testing?
He's waiting for comments back from New Jersey DEP, but he's not getting a response. That was my...
To my misunderstanding, is it still possible that DEP may come back and have something other than doing the perk pits? Is that still, in other
I don't
words,
think so. I think they're going to insist on the perk tests.
It seems like they're according to
But they-
Paul, but they may only require 1 or
One.
2
Okay.
instead of 5. I think
I
everybody
gotcha.
felt 5 is an excessive amount of
Okay.
test pits for
That would be the entire
a football
field.
field size
Did
area.
they say we might not have to use the backhoe? We might be able to drill and do the perk test?
No,
Paul
they
felt
want
pretty
perk
clear
pits.
that the soil was such that it would have to be backhoe and that the hole would have to be a fairly significant or wide in order to assure it doesn't cave in on itself and that it was maintained in a safe condition.
Of course.
And when I was asked at the meeting how big was a perk test, I think I gave it an approximation, basically the size of a car.
Well, it's 12 feet deep, it said, so it must be
Right, it's
about
gotta
a
be.
car wide, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
just to give them a
But it sounded
visual.
like that they need to get more information before they even know if that's doable.
And like Paul had said, it's like a slowdown in getting any kind of information back to him. When he calls and he's not getting information back.
so we're gonna need a minimum of one hole for the perk test. Is that gonna cost $7,000?
No, that would be obviously less.
Okay, so we don't need to really appropriate the 7,000 at this point until we find out what the DEP's
I think we
going
need
to
to,
require.
I think we need to dedicate a dollar amount that allows flexibility for them to pursue, so you don't wanna come back to the table, okay, it's $1,000 for this,
Right.
you know, so
Right.
if they're asking
Come back
for,
6 times.
they're asking for 13, 6 that's been spent, 7 that is estimated. I think if you want to consider, and I'm just floating this, you would say hypothetically, you know, we're up to $15,000, and then that moves it forward. If I'm not speaking out of turn here.
Yeah, because you don't know what the other permit fees
Right.
would be,
There's
or the
gotta
other
be something.
requirements for those permits.
You don't have to spend money, I mean, it'll,
I think subjects to us finding some surplus in the budget, and I don't mean surplus, technical surplus, but some places we can transfer from when the time comes without hurting any other line item, yeah.
Because that would be my question, where's the money gonna come from?
Better look at the CFO and.
Well, what's happening in the meantime then? Right now, Mazer's waiting for the Board of Ed to say go, which
No,
is
the
waiting for
No,
us.
DEP.
they're waiting for DEP
DEP.
to see how many pits they have to do, where they have to be placed in the field, how many, I said that already, how many pits have to be dug.
And the Board of Ed to give us the authorization that they're not utilizing the field, the
Right.
field at that time.
And that would be sometime after November in all likelihood.
That's why I said sometime mid to end of November is what I'm thinking when football and soccer is over.
Thanksgiving-ish.
So is it possible in the next 30 days that we'll have more information as far as what this number would be?
Anything's possible.
Deferring
but
action until next month?
DEP seems to be moving and dragging their heels.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
Well, what's your pleasure? I mean, we're talking about a request from the Board of Ed to, you know, basically, commit additional dollars to this, as Steve said, providing that there's numbers that are available to support it. The question before the council is whether or not the governing body wants to commit another $15,000 to the project to support the permitting that's currently being
Well, should we wait
handled
and
by the
see
Board of
where
Ed.
we're getting the money from, if there is money in the budget to do this?
So we do subject to.
Okay.
Well, we definitely need to give them the 6 back at a minimum.
Well, I guess the question is, and I wasn't at the meeting, is the Board of Ed not inclined to support the application as well? I mean, there's this is a joint effort, and, you know, we've put in the lion's share of the dollars at this point in time, and it would seem that we're gonna basically both have a mutual benefit here. You know, are we quibbling
Yeah.
about dollars that maybe?
Right. Maybe we can talk about a not to exceed of $15,000, but I'd certainly like to negotiate with the school board. And look, it's all Kinnelon taxpayers' money at the end of the day. But as far as our budget process and availability of funds, you know, if there's another 7 to 10 that has to be spent, maybe if we take that on, they can absorb the 6 that they've already spent. As a
Because there was some
negotiation.
question about that at the meeting, that they had originally thought that it was 35 or 36 that we'd approved. And I had the documentation with me, a copy of the resolution that I had dropped off the day after our meeting. It was definitely
It's
30.
definitely 30.
Definitely 30. And
Well, it sounds like right now DEP is in the driver's seat, but if in fact we are moving forward, I think that we should take under consideration next week, you know, a resolution that supports the application, so, you know,
I'll work
subject
with
to
the
it, just, you
CFO
know,
and
come up with a,
do you want me to go back and ask what Steve had suggested? That they maybe absorb the 6,000 and we pick up the 7?
They should have some skin in the game, there's no question
I-
about it. I mean, I know that
I've said that all
they're
along.
colder on athletics right now because they're taking a lot of heat from the parents on dropping on the rankings, and that is across the board. Facebook is hot with that, and let's take back our Kinnelon, and the parents are out there pretty much in force at these meetings, and as far as getting that back, so, yeah, I think we need more info, we need to be able to negotiate
But for next week, do you want to put something on the agenda to further the application and support it? I think that's the question, so. Subject to, and I mean, there could be negotiations, it's just,
Yes.
Yes.
just because we commit another $15,000 to the project doesn't mean that
Doesn't
we
mean
have to
it's
spend it,
Correct.
so. Okay, so we'll work on that for next week. Anything else, Carol?
No, that is the end of my report and my voice.
Okay. I know this has been pushed down the road and down the road, so I guess it's not as critical as it once was, but is there any progress on putting an educational night together?
Not as yet, no. I think at our last meeting, I'd asked Jim if there was contact information that he could share with me as to who at Nike or any of the other infill.
Nice, I got nobody but field turf. And I just think this meeting would be senseless if you're gonna put someone that's pro-turf into a room. It'll be like a council meeting all over again. Pro-turf and
Oh, it couldn't
negative
get
turf,
that
what's
bad.
gonna,
That's always fun.
well, I mean, what's gonna get solved if you have a guy that's against and for it, sitting in front of everybody arguing about
Maybe
it?
like
How
CNN.
about something else like this? I mean, you know me being the techie guy, is, you know, we have the stuff coming out from Kinnelon Conserves, and you have the stuff coming out from, you know, everybody. We could create a web page that has links to all of these different companies and create kind of a virtual resource for the community to go and look at Nike Fill, EnviroFill, Field Turf, you know, and whatever else.
Sure.
I mean, obviously, everybody can do that themselves, that's understood. You can Google it all you want.
Right, you make
But
it easier.
at least we make it easier, we can bring it all together.
Not that idea.
You know, we can ask the different groups, I'm sure we'll have contacts for the pros and the antis, and bring that together. I'd be happy to facilitate a page.
No, I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Maybe we can get some medical people too that'll have some kind of input.
Yeah.
That-
Online, I mean,
Not
we
that-
could, you
Then
know,
it just becomes the same debate.
Yeah.
You know, again, it becomes just
Who
the
you wanna
same
believe.
debate.
Just a debate.
Who do you wanna
Who
believe
you wanna
in,
believe.
and who governs what gets put on there?
Well,
And, yeah, I mean, not saying you can't do it, that's not a legal question, do whatever you want, but, yeah.
Well, I think we're obligated to push as much information out to the public as we can, and if we're gonna do it through.
I mean, I think that makes it, you know, like you said, you're gonna have the emotionally engaged people are gonna be the ones at the meeting, and it's gonna be an issue, whereas, you know, if we make it available to everybody, you know, on the web, you know, theoretically, every age, you know, from the 5-year-old that wants to be involved because of the parents to the 90-something-year-old that can't get out, you know, we really make it available. And then, you know, maybe we can even do something with the library as far as using their CLL list to get that stuff out, you know, and then use the rec list that we have through Community Pass to get that link out, and, you know, really get everybody involved in reading about the facts.
Thank you, Carol. Moving on now to personnel and ordinance, Cliff.
Thank you, Mayor. You stole my thunder with the pipeline ordinance. I guess we finalized that discussion that we're not gonna do anything, at least at this point. The tree ordinance is still on the agenda for a second reading for next week. I have not heard anything. Karen, have you heard anything about the tree ordinance from anybody?
No, nobody said anything yet.
I spoke to Tammy Roselius about the sign ordinance. They're still working on it. She said they're gonna try and get it to me as soon as possible. So I guess that's a good sign. Personnel, we have the salaries issue, which I think we're gonna do in
New
new
business.
business, okay? And with all this personnel, all these personnel issues that have come up recently, I've gotten back to a project I had started a few months ago of job descriptions for all the people in town hall and, you know, that work for the town. I think that might be helpful. I had sent a few out earlier, I think one for the DPW superintendent, a few others, but I'm gonna get back to that and make that a priority. And the MOA from the union, I think we can discuss that in close. There are some issues regarding that. I sent an email out today, just as a base, and I think we need to discuss that to a large extent. Other than that, that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Cliff. Moving on to hearing from the public. Anybody from the public wish to be heard this evening? State your name for the record. Remind the public, we do in fact record the meetings, so state your name and address for the meeting and be heard.
Richard Werner, Winchell Highway Drive. Starting with Dan Salt, you had mentioned, I think, the last council meeting, we did have or we didn't have the amount that we needed, or anything
We
changed
do
there?
have salt in the shed, but who can predict the weather? We have enough for approximately 4 storms in the shed, okay, but, you know what I'm saying, we don't know what we have. We have, our budget from last year was overextended on the salt. So we had about $20,000 left. They are storing equipment in our shed right now for the construction, some of the equipment, so waiting for that equipment to be removed, and then we are going to work on putting more salt into the shed.
But salt is available.
Salt is available, yes.
Okay, it's not a short,
There's no shortage.
This hire you're talking about for the DPW, that person being taken on full-time instead of part-time, that'd be subject to the return of one of these 2 individuals who are out?
No.
So we'd be adding to staff?
We'd be adding to the staff, we'd be adding 1 person to the staff at this time, yes.
Permanent. Actually, a half a person, because he's already part-time, right?
He's already part-time. He's already working 20 hours a week.
29, I
So-
think they came out.
Yeah, so we've been making him full-time. But what happens is, too, when we have people out sick and people overextend their time, we gain monies from that because they're all out of time and they take an extra day off. We don't pay them for that time that they take off. So we do have the finances available to substantiate the hiring of a full-time.
But he'd be entitled to benefits he's not receiving now.
Correct.
Right, okay.
Mhm.
For taking on that obligation.
Correct. I mean, you have to realize too, by looking at other municipalities offer lifetime health care for some of their employees. Kinnelon does not. Okay, so some of these other municipalities entice more people maybe to make application to their facilities. So,
One other question, you mentioned something about windows for the new building.
yes.
That's an issue as of today, or it's been resolved, or, I mean, I heard about a bounce check or something.
Yes, apparently the contractor, IBM, bounced the check for the windows. So we were expecting the windows to be in 2 weeks ago, and we keep being told 2 weeks, 2 weeks. She admitted this morning that the check did bounce.
All right, so the $132,500 that we've authorized payment of,
Yes.
how does that relate to this?
Well, that
Can we
relates
direct
to,
it to
that
police?
relates to, hey, you know, that apparently they're supplying them in, they're getting the material and they're paying for it right away, so they apparently don't have.
Well, can we specify that part of this 132 must go to the windows?
No, we can't specify.
Well, then deduct it.
It has nothing to do with that. The 132 is for work that's been completed already,
I
that's been
understand.
approved.
I understand.
It's been approved by the office.
Yeah.
We don't have the authority of right, I don't believe I can ask,
No, we can't hold back that money.
we can't hold back any
At
of
this
that
point.
money.
And I wouldn't want us to become the GCs on the
Yeah.
job.
We're not-
And become the controlling factor. But I would like to see some proof that those windows are paid
Right,
for
we-
immediately,
Okay.
once we cut
You
that.
understand what I'm asking, yeah.
Because
absolutely.
we really need the heat installed and that facility. I mean,
I don't-
fortunately, the weather's been very good that we're able to we're installing the spreaders on the trucks and the plows and everything, getting ready for the winter. Fortunately, the weather's been nice and cooperating with us right now.
Except last Friday.
And they're gonna cut that, they're gonna cut.
Except last Friday.
There was another issue with the floor.
I know, except last Friday. I do like your optimistic weather reports, though.
Yes, I
Just
always
one
have
day.
every day is shiny.
Exactly.
I mean, we are cutting the old floor out this Saturday. And we're going according to the original plan. We had talked about doing another type of flooring system, but that's out of the question because we found out that that's way more than what was originally quoted to us by the contractors. So we're going with the original floor cut in the existing garage, so we're gonna cut it out tomorrow, Saturday.
Question for Steve. We're still on an annual budgeting process. I think there was some conversation some time ago about perhaps going to
Fiscal year?
18 months or 2 years.
Well, the budget that we adopt and that we encumber funds for is 1 year.
Right.
But a capital budget, we try and go out a
Capital
couple of years.
Right.
And we addressed the 2016 budget insofar as we were gonna make every effort to keep it flat because of the revaluation, and that's still the intention
Right.
of the governing body, to have a flat 2016 budget, as was 2015.
And if this PERT test fails, then what?
then
So you don't get the permit.
we don't get the permit.
I assume, just like
Well, then-
building a house, if you don't get that.
Right.
We'll then know
Oh.
what we're up against.
All right.
It could, my understanding, and I don't want to speak for DEP because I don't think anybody can, but it could change the proposal on the drainage. You may be able to present something else, in fact, in an application that would satisfy, you know, the runoff and drainage issues. So I don't think it's an end all if the DEP, you know, says.
No, but
yes.
this is the reason that we're pursuing this and making sure we have it, to know that we can do it and what the cost will be.
Right.
It's important to
So we
determine.
need
But I
to
think
have
the
all of
question
this
is-
information.
I think the question is if it fails on the perk test
Well,
of the
then they'll say,
project, then
then
the
that's
permit.
what they might say, hey, you
Becomes
need
so
to do this, and then it
cost
becomes
Then
cost
it becomes
prohibitive, and that's what we're looking for, an answer.
Okay. Anyone else from the public wish to be heard this evening?
Yeah, Randy Charles, 69 Green Hill Road. Dan, it's not your fault. Worst case scenario, how do we plan? The clock's ticking on us. It's getting cold. It's gonna come down to how long do we keep the trucks in before we gotta get them out and get the salt in? I mean, I'm not trying to be a wise guy. That's a...
We functioned for how many years with the one facility, so I'm hoping that in 2 weeks, we were supposed to have it ready by the 15th of October, the existing facility. So hopefully we're gonna have that ready 2 weeks later.
So we'll be all right. We'll have
So
the
we're
salt.
all right with it.
Okay.
We'll have the salt, you know, we'll have the equipment that's
salt.
out there. We have salt now.
But we want more salt.
Of course we do. Yeah.
More is better.
That's all I'm asking is worst
Yeah.
case scenario.
We have plans.
Well, I know we have plans, but we have a building contractor who said, whoops, I bounced the check. I mean, hello? I mean, I've built pharmaceutical plants.
I understand that.
That was, if that, I heard that, finance would have been in there and they would have had a hell of a problem. Big problem. Matter of fact, I probably would have been terminated for not fulfilling their obligation to the contract. That's what I'm saying. I mean, bouncing it, come on, guys, they're windows. You know, I can go on TV and order Anderson renewal. I mean, and we have this, I get you laughing because that's what's happened.
I agree. Their fault. It's in
No,
our
yeah, but we pay the piper on it.
Yes, we do.
That's the problem. So
And
now
we're
we're
stuck
rewarding
with,
them.
we're
That's what
stuck
you
with
call,
municipal
that's what you
contract.
get when you go lowest bidder.
Well, no, I've always had to go lowest bidder. Try working with the Germans. You can talk about low bids. Yeah, you can get things done. And it's called monitoring and making sure that, that's pretty rough.
You can't monitor their funds to know if they have enough money to pay for their supplies.
I would make sure I would have had part of the discovery process before they got the contract, is I would have had their financial status reviewed.
Well, comment, we're not
Anyway.
gonna debate the contract in public.
So there's a big difference. So we're rewarding them bouncing a check with a new $132,000 check.
That was the contract.
It's in
Do we want our check to bounce and
It's
shake
for
them
work
up?
completed.
We won't get our windows.
I
Again,
thought
we're
we-
not gonna
All right.
debate the terms of the contract and the implications of it in public.
But they're held accountable for this if they miss the dates, right, Dan?
Correct.
I think that's the bottom line.
Correct.
Do they need to be admonished on that in writing?
I don't.
It's in the contract.
It's in the
They
contract.
don't hit the dates.
No, it's an extra incentive saying, by the way, let's go, guys, come on, shake a leg. You know, I mean, that's business. That's business, you've all been there. Next question, coming back. This is on the turf, Carol. Mazer or Mazer? Mazer.
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 Always been
Mazer.
Mazer.
Red company. Mazer resubmitted, you said, the original application with the perk data?
No.
Without perk.
Without perk data. What they had done when they, let me find it in here, hold on. It was easier when it was on the screen, the font was larger.
Start your machine up.
New Jersey did a preview of the application. Said Mazer had assumed the percolation rate under the field by using a soil survey to do this. And DEP said that Mazer would have to back up their percolation rate that they had projected by doing perk pits. So they had used
Numbers out of the book, it sounds
But
like.
what did
a
they
Morris County soil survey.
What did they resubmit, though, in August?
They resubmitted the same
same data.
application, to, the same data to DEP.
Which DEP rejected, right? They said they want the
They,
perk days.
they rejected it originally because it wasn't complete, because it didn't have the Highlands designation included with it.
Correct. So then they resubmitted once they got the Highlands designation, began looking at it, and said, we need you to back up your assumed perk rates.
And you have
which
to
are-
do the perk tests.
Correct.
Yes.
Those are
Do we
based on
know where those
county.
perk pits are gonna be on that field?
Mm,
Does anybody have an idea?
No,
No,
I'd hate to put holes in the middle of that field,
they're, can,
but I assume that's what's gonna have to
that
happen.
is exactly what's gonna happen, and that's why I would wait until after November.
Yeah, so that leads to the next question. We don't know how many pits, right?
it could be anywhere from 1 up to 5
And they
pits.
say 5 12-foot pits are only gonna cost $7,500?
$7,000.
$7,000? I'd like to know who the contractor is, I got some work for him.
Well, I think we'll be using our backhoe.
We'll be using DPW's backhoe?
Sure.
Yeah, because that 7,000 doesn't include the cost of a backhoe,
You
which
still
is
gotta
why
put, I
Mazer would
assume,
be going
gravel
through.
in there, you still gotta,
Mazer priced several different contractors, and that was the number that came in across the board, sans backhoe.
5 pits.
Yes, and that could be less pits, but that is not a number that, again, I'm.
12-foot pit's a big pit.
Again,
And I asked Steve Baldessarato from town, who you probably all know,
right,
Steve Baldessarato, and he said his
Who's
price, he's a engineer, I guess, in town, right? Correct?
He's a septic engineer.
Septic engineer, and he said he could do it, and it was a little bit more expensive than what Mason
Septic.
gave us.
So we're gonna go ahead without DEP guidance, correct?
We're not going anywhere.
Not going anywhere.
Are we
until
waiting
we
for
get
their
the
guidance?
DEP.
We're still
Yes.
waiting for DEP to get back to
That's what I'm saying,
Mazer
we're waiting for them to
Engineering.
come back to
Yeah.
Yes.
Mazer,
Correct,
and we're gonna go ahead and okay money, when
correct,
we don't know what it is.
correct.
So we're looking at $43,000 in total,
Correct.
correct?
Well, yeah, with the 30, yes.
yeah, 6 plus 7.
So it's 43,000 on top of the approved 30.
No.
No,
No.
43,
I mean, it's
including the
13
30.
on top of the approved
Yes.
30. All right, next question coming up. Coming at you, Steve.
Next
Okay.
question.
I thought a year ago we had this conversation, we were also going through problems getting budgets down to the state so we could have ourselves covered for grants and aid. And so look, we're back in the driver's in the same situation again. Will Phoenix come back, when do we have an idea Phoenix will come back and tell us if we're gonna be able to move forward with our CFO? If that individual will be ready to take those exams?
Is that- Well, that,
Have they
well, I'm
decided?
I'm not gonna discuss any individual employee and what
I'm
their
not
status.
discussing individual, I didn't
Okay.
discuss individual.
Well, I thought you wanted.
I didn't say a name, I said this current CFO position.
I'm not gonna. Phoenix is gonna give us a report based upon their analysis of our business office and our tax collector's office within a week, hopefully before our next meeting. And they're gonna meet with Bob and myself and
And
go
all
over
the
their
individuals
report.
will be assessed. Like,
The whole,
will be
both
assessed.
departments, yeah.
Okay, question is, worst case scenario. They come back and say they're not comfortable with where we are with our acting CFO. What do we do?
Hire a CFO.
So we're back in the same situation again.
Under that set of circumstances, yeah, I guess we would be.
We're gonna look at a CFO. We're not moving forward on anything else.
Well, I don't know what else we could move
Okay,
forward on.
No, there was
I mean,
talk
we would
about
use Phoenix to get us over the point until we got someone. We would have to, but you're saying if what we have can't work as a CFO, what would we do? Well, we have to have a CFO, so we'd have to hire one.
That's where I'm
You
going
make-
right now.
Right.
And
Okay.
asking why, we're not, still don't have this position posted or anything. We're still not gathering any resumes
For
for a
what
CFO position.
No, we'll get about 5-6 days and we'll talk to Phoenix and see what their recommendation is.
They're not looking at a borough business administrator?
Who, Phoenix?
Phoenix.
We've not asked them to do that.
Well, if they're smart, you're always gonna look ahead for your
Well, if they bring
client.
that information to the table, we'll certainly listen to what they have to say, and if it's something that, boy, really, that sounds like the way to go, we would consider it. But as of now, we have not asked them to do that, and they have not said that they're gonna do that. And by that, I mean, talk about a business administrator.
Okay, I just wanna get it on the table for the record, that this isn't an endeavor to move towards a borough business administrator. just want it on the table, out in the open. So everybody's aware. So everybody's aware. That's pretty much I'm done.
Anyone else from the public wish to be heard this evening?
Yeah.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
Glenn Cisco, 31 River Road. Of all the controversy about the Pilgrim pipeline, has anybody approached any other kind of a resolution? Doesn't Albany area like refineries? For the cost of the pipeline, couldn't they build a refinery where they're finding this product that has to be transferred by a pipe and then get back to Albany by a light pipe?
I don't think anybody's talked about it, Glenn. I think the fact that the refinery infrastructure is already in New Jersey, and I don't know, I know on nuclear plants, I mean, we haven't had a single new nuclear plant built in the last 35, 40 years. I don't know if that's the same situation regarding refineries, but I would seem that the Energy Department probably has the say on whether or not a new refinery can be built up in Albany.
Has any of this information determined that the New Jersey refinery can do all this?
I think that's the preliminary conversation that Pilgrim has had with the refineries, that ultimately they think that this is the most cost-effective way, because right now they're transporting the Balkan crude via barge down the Hudson River. And so that crude is actually coming into Port Newark, into the refineries. So it's actually being refined there right now. It's the mode of transportation from up north, where they're getting it through fracking, down into you know, the refinery here in Linden.
It just seems,
Backwards.
it seems crazy to me that they haven't given any thought to it, because they haven't advertised any thought about having a refinery where they're finding the product. By the time they pay for the pipeline and all the other kinds of crappy things that go into it, they could build a refinery right there.
You would think if they could, they would though, right, Glenn? I mean, I don't know, I'm not an engineer, I don't.
Pollutes Albany.
I don't profess to know anything about the pipeline or their product. I'm just wondering why the hell they can't build a refinery right there and resolve the problem. Provide the jobs and building a refinery.
Glenn, do you agree with my opinion that our fire company would not be in a position to battle a major fire caused by a break in the pipe?
I know for a fact, you probably have to mobilize the whole county. Right now, we wouldn't be able to control anything that would happen on the two pipelines we already have.
You probably bring fire apparatus in from the airport, so your phones are heavy duty phones.
Yeah, but by that time, it's actually half the universe burned up. Well, I was just wondering.
Good question.
And you had mentioned before about that we don't have a boom truck anymore.
We do not.
Well, the reason we don't have a boom truck, and this is information that came to me in a very awkward way. Somebody not even involved in either Butler or Kinnelon, and it came up in like a side conversation that Mr. Lampman said that he wouldn't even offer selling us a used boom truck. Use that money to pay your sewer bill. Now that's not information that's supposed to be on the outside. But he's a smart guy.
I've heard.
He likes Dan. Dan's his buddy.
He doesn't like you.
He doesn't like me. And you know what? I don't like him.
We know.
No.
You know, if he'd smarten up a little bit, it might be a little bit better situation, but I'm not crazy.
Currently, they don't have a truck available.
Yes, they did.
They have used.
Yes, they did. They had two, because they replaced 2 bucket trucks, but they wouldn't sell any to Kinnelon. Okay, that, I just wondered if everybody knew that kind of crazy story.
Thank you, Glenn.
You're welcome.
Anyone else from the public this evening? close the meeting to the public and come back to the council. You have the bill list in your packet to review before next week. We will remove the one item that Dan spent $132,000 on tonight. So we'll take that one off the bill list. Under the consent agenda, we do have the authorization for Phoenix Consulting Group for financial operations. This memorializes the action that we took at the special meeting. And the second item here is authorizing to hire a tax collector. There is a resolution that's been distributed this evening, 10-0215. This is an urgent matter, and I know that this is going to be a borough employee. So this is not someone that's going to be working for the consultant. They will be paid as a borough employee. And this is the employee identified by Phoenix, Judith O'Brien.
When you're saying she's working for the borough, we're just paying her?
We're paying her, so she's being hired as our employee on a temporary basis.
Oh, okay.
I think
Okay.
that's required. I think we
Okay.
have to have an employee
Okay.
who's got a
Did you interview
CTC.
tonight?
I did not meet her. This came through Phoenix. They basically have said this is an urgent matter.
Yeah, no choice.
And the understanding is that, and with this future employee, that this is a temporary situation. Because as Steve said, we have a couple of resumes for full-time tax collectors, but Jim pointed out we have a couple of things that need to happen now for tax sales, so we're a little bit under the gun for this. The salary will be within the ordinance rate, not outside, but we need to take action on this to at least get.
What is the salary?
Unfortunately, the resolution doesn't have a number in it. And I talked to our attorney this evening, and once again, it'll be within the confines of the ordinance.
Within our salary
ordinance.
Apparently there is time pressure here, and
Right.
you know.
I did meet her today, she seems very nice.
So we have a cap, this is not an open-ended offer here, we can, you know, amend that, or.
So just for the benefit of the public and whatnot, there's no appointment where you're gonna be timed out and they have to stay for a long time. It's complete, and they're outside the union, so that's not an issue. So, yeah, it's completely clean.
Right, but we need to take action, otherwise we're gonna miss some filing dates, so,
So moved.
you know, we need to make that
Second.
happen.
We gotta-
Is that what you're saying? You want to so
I
move?
was getting there, so I have a motion, a second, roll call, please.
Councilman Frida?
Yeah.
Councilman O'Dowd?
Yes.
Councilman Barrett?
Yes.
Councilman Cavell?
Yes.
Councilman Senti?
Yes.
And Councilman Giantonio?
Yes.
We now have a tax collector, or, I'm sorry, offer to a new employee on the table, so we'll make that happen tomorrow. I'm gonna ask that you look at the salary ordinance and come up with a number.
I'll meet with this person, I guess, if you can let me know when she's going to be here.
I don't know when Judith is gonna be here.
Oh, no, I'm asking,
Contact.
yeah, if you can find out, if you can talk to Phoenix or them and let me know.
She was here, and she's gonna be
Yeah.
working at night.
I'll come here, and that's better for me, because I sometimes get paid for my day job. So I'd rather do this one at night.
Under the consent agenda, we have the grant for the Faison Lake Road
Yeah.
improvements. We also have the authorization of awarding a one-year contract for solid waste refuse collection to Suburban Disposal. And then we also have a one-year contract, single-stream recyclable material to Suburban Disposal as well. As you recall, we only had one contractor respond to our bid. The other items are pretty much administrative, with the exception of the interlocal agreement for animal control services. And I believe that is at the same contracted rate with no change. So we'll have somebody that will be in place to
What is the concrete drilling for?
the concrete core drilling testing.
Testing on Faison Lake Road?
I think we do it all the time after we pay, don't we?
We did, we did
So
a
that we
set-
get our grant
Right.
authorized, so that Don Mapowski Engineering can say that the project was done according to specifications.
That's it. Okay. I have the paperwork, Jim, if you want me to scan it, send it to you.
And then I think Cliff spoke to the MOA with IBEW. We're going to not take action on that, or we're going to talk about it in closed. I'm sorry,
Right.
let's talk about it in closed, but it's
Right.
on the consent agenda, but require additional conversation in closed.
Yes.
We have a payment of the school tax. $2,959,450. That's a little higher than 13,000. When you're looking at numbers, just for the record. And under old business, Cliff reported that the tree removal is on for adoption and public hearing, and then we have the establishing salary ranges for borough employees, and also capital improvements for the boiler at the Cole.
Yes.
Under new business, at our special meeting, I thought it was appropriate that we talk about salary structures and not positions within the borough, because I think that we in fact are maybe in a position where we're not competitive and we're not attracting good qualified candidates. And I think the second issue is really a question of whether or not we're retaining people that are really doing, I think, some credible work. So I know that Carol had put together, I think, some information and sent it out to everyone. But I wanted to, and unions are involved, okay? And that's why we don't have union membership here. You know, if in fact we're dealing with the police union, we wouldn't have every single police officer here. We're talking about positions, and we're talking about how we really can adjust this to a competitive market rate. So once again, I think that we had asked for the League of Municipalities to provide us with a survey. And I think Carol had done a nice job of just mapping out you know, where we're at. So I know I'd asked Cliff, and I think you guys coordinated, if I'm not mistaken, but I don't know who wants to start the conversation, either Cliff or Carol, but I'd like to hear your analysis and comment on what you found out.
Actually, Carol did the yeoman's work on this, so if you want, I'll let you
Well,
start.
the spreadsheet that I put together, the comparative, basically I broke it into 3 different groups because we had resumes from different areas, different counties, different municipalities. So when I was going through the league's salary guide, going through each and every municipality within the state was a little daunting. So I broke it down into municipalities where there were similar populations, also neighboring municipalities, as well as municipalities that were both neighbors and or where we had received resumes from. Here, Steve.
You got another one? No, I got one here.
Okay. And in that, I took the information directly out of the salary guide and copied and pasted it right into here. So you could look very closely and see between Bergen, Morrison, Passaic counties, and also Somerset, for the different positions.
Before you go too much further, I'd like everybody to get copies
Carol,
in front of them, because
Okay.
everybody has them.
Make some copies, because I don't have one either.
Can you enlarge that?
No,
Or
it's-
pass out glasses?
It's not
just
gonna-
saying.
It's not gonna make it on the paper if I enlarge it.
Yeah, you
Well,
can't,
could
that's,
you
I
put it on
had
2
trouble
sheets?
doing that on the computer, I couldn't
Yeah, I couldn't.
scroll down and keep it all in line.
See,
do one of these and then
you don't have ledger sheets inside?
Yeah,
That
yep,
is
yep.
ledger.
No, that's
That's
legal.
legal.
We have 11 by
Ledger
17.
11 by
See if you can
17. You can
print
blow it up
it
on
first.
ledger.
Usually you can hand feed the 11 by
Because,
17.
You probably need yours too, Karen.
Before we get into the details, so
Yeah.
a broad-based overview. Executive summary. Are we competitive or not competitive?
I don't think that we are. Compared to other municipalities, for instance, the tax assessor, full-time, according to the salary guide, is $60,000. And
That's the low end of Morris County? Is that, am I reading the spreadsheet right?
yeah, the range is 60,000 to 121, and we're at 34.
That's part-time. Just, we gotta do an apple comparison. 'cause
Well,
that's
okay,
so that's-
then
so-
their part-time is 7,800 to 58, and we're still below.
We're in the middle, so.
Yeah, we're about in the middle of that.
That
spectrum.
jives exactly
Tax
with what-
You gotta remember, that
collector,
also encompasses that the high could be the city of Newark.
Or you
No,
could-
'cause
you
she
do Morris
specified.
County, I think she did Morris County.
this is
So it'd be
comparing us to Morris
Morristown.
County.
Right, so it could be Morristown.
Right.
Treasurer is right about on the mark. Let me scroll down. We were, this was part-time CFO, no, I'm sorry. Now I'm having trouble going back and forth.
I just should make comment that, we are currently actively involved in negotiations
Yeah.
with the union as well. So our analysis of the salaries is not indicative of a commitment to change salaries. What it is it's information that supports a decision as we move forward.
What about what about an individual?
Because the challenge here really is to make sure that we're not making a commitment.
We have to be
you know,
informed.
We have to be informed to make an educated decision
Yes.
on what we want to do here. And
this in no way
once
indicates
again,
the
the concern was raised, I think, with some conversation with some employees that we're just not competitive. So that's the thrust here.
That is the thrust, and as we all know, we've lost
We're not setting
employees.
numbers. What we're going to do is ask the personnel committee in their conversations after we talk about whatever, to talk about this, okay?
We'll have a meeting to talk about
A
what we're
meeting
gonna
to meet.
talk about at the meeting. We'll get there.
Okay, so,
I mean, what about the thought of you dividing up the employees and each one of us do that research on that position where it makes it,
I think because we're in negotiations, I think Cliff has already done the heavy lifting, Jim. I mean, the union has really, I think, expressed what their desires are. But our question really is the fact that we're losing some key personnel here. And I'm concerned about retention as we continue to move forward, because we're so thinly staffed, and when you have lower echelon people, and I'm not being derogatory by saying that, when you have a lower echelon person leave and it upsets the entire operation in one department, you've got to look at the staffing component, you've got to look at the operations of the department, and you have to look at what you're willing to pay for experience. I think that all too often in corporate world, people leave because they can get more money elsewhere. And we've been fortunate that we've had dedicated employees that have stayed with us for an extended period of time. But I think this dovetails into the union conversations just to make sure that once again we're going to enter into another contract. We are in the third year of. Well, I'm sorry, we're 3 years into this contract for the.
We're 2 years into a 3-year
Three-year
contract.
right? And so we have to actually start new negotiations. And in fact, we were notified that DPW has indicated that we've got to start negotiations next year on that contract. So I think we've been.
Police end at 16, maybe?
But if we're so far out of the mark, I think it's incumbent upon us to look at it and say, is there something else we should be doing? And sometimes the salaries that are outlined here don't necessarily include benefits. You may have somebody with a lower benefit, vacation benefit, sick time benefit.
That's why I think it's more research than just looking at this, because, like you said, is it a part-time CFO? Is it the rec director who has a staff of 10 under him that, stuff like that needs to come into play. So I think individually, if I do the research, let's say for rec, I can look and compare apples to apples and then come back to the council, or, Adam can do the police if that's what we're gonna do, and where everybody has a quest and can get the knowledge and be able to explain it. Because I was looking at that and I was like, all right, Kinnelon, 134, and I'm like, scroll all the way over here, and I'm like, shit, what was Kinnelon? So I went back there, and then I'm like, all right, now what town am I comparing it to over here? And I went up one, and I'm like, shit, it was Kinnelon again, so I went back there.
Short-term memory.
So it's just, it was very difficult, and you could see by the printout Adam had, he had to make it this small to see it all on one page.
Well, I'll tell you what I do in my company. Right now, we are budgeting employee benefits at 39%. And I don't even know if
Does that
that's a good
include
number.
taxes?
including taxes, because I used to budget at 28%, and that's just with the health cost benefits, it's out of the mark. But if you in fact have a part-time worker who's not taking benefits because they're not eligible under the Affordable Care Act, you could say, listen, that 40% benefit really marks that hourly wage to here. You now have a benchmark to work to and say, listen, I don't mind paying additional hourly increase here because I'm getting the benefit, this person's not, taking a benefit. So, net cost is gonna be a little
Right.
lower in that perspective.
I
I think
just
your
think-
input's a good one, I mean.
But I think communication is the key here. I mean, I have a very, very good retention of my employees, and I communicate with them all the time. You know, a lot of them, sometimes what we think they want is not what they want. They might want lower and a longer lunch or something, so I think communication is key with the employees. I mean, we can't just say, all right, everybody's making 70, let's give them 70. Well, maybe they don't want 70, maybe they want lower. So I think there's got to be a communication factor as well.
Right, but the one overriding factor here is,
Yeah.
there's a union.
How am I gonna scan
Right.
this?
So you would not meet with a patrol officer to talk about his personal situation. You would go through the union membership, and that's why I think we've got to work this from the top down as opposed to bottom up. But I think it's important to get input from the council members who have familiarity with their respective areas. But I don't know what, and I know the numbers were small, but the question I want to ask this evening is, are we competitive? And if we're not competitive, are we really willing to take on a different approach here to compensate people and recognize them? Because once again, we're losing some key people here, and the retention is really something I'm concerned about. And I know you were involved in negotiations. I don't know.
thought they went well, but maybe
Okay.
not.
And I know that you've been through DPW and been through police, but maybe as part of the negotiating process moving forward, we really should bring a lot more information to the committee level so that they can go into the negotiations a little bit better prepared.
You would think, Bob, that the unions are armed with the information when they negotiate the salaries from their side. I think the more difficult thing is the non-union folks to stay competitive for our department heads, and, I think that's most of the challenge. The unions, you would assume that they know what they're they know what they want when they're going in. They have the lawyer on their side and a union and everything else. But as I said, I just think it's more difficult to get a fair compensation, competitive compensation package for our non-union folks. It's a challenge.
And that's a good point, because we really have a couple
Right.
challenges. We have the union membership, and then we have the non-union membership.
And that's a gray area where some positions are, whether they're union or not, that's a whole separate problem.
And we have a small community here. I mean, a number of years ago, we adjusted one employee's salary, and the floodgates opened up because it was communicated really quickly that apparently there was some excess dollars in the budget to provide for recognition for certain employees, and you had employees saying, well, is this in fact fair to me? Why am I being overlooked? But that's why I just wanted to get a broad-based executive summary from Carol, because she put some numbers together, and I think Jim's point's a good one. We really should be talking to people about ultimately, what the challenges of their position and what we can do to recognize them. I mean, you run a business,
Yeah, but
good help is not cheap.
Right. As long as you're outside the union, because otherwise individual conversation creates problems.
Right.
If we have a position that's making more than everybody else, will they lower theirs?
That's a good question. Ask negotiation. I think you know the answer.
We're trying to apples to apples.
You can get anything else?
Police or
Staff
DPW
level.
management or DPW
Well,
maintainer are not on any of these
The
lists.
second spreadsheet Karen put together.
Well, let me ask the question a different way. Is there something else that we should be talking about as the governing body really to hopefully improve where we're at? Because I really am concerned, and when we get good people, you want to hold on to them.
But I just think we need a game plan for this and a time commitment of when it needs to be done so we can discuss it.
I'm looking at what other
Well,
things.
I'd like to charge the,
that
The
would be-
business office number.
I'd like to charge the personnel committee with really doing a broad-based assessment of salaries, because I think that's kind of where we're at, and then coordinate with the finance chair on identifying whether or not we can afford to do what's
How
being
much of it we can
proposed.
afford
Right.
to do.
And you may do a step process here. We had an employee who was retired here, and I told him quite succinctly, from a management perspective, I said, I don't think in Kinnelon you'll ever make the highest salary in Morris County, but I think given where we're at, I don't think it'd be the lowest either. And the employee said he understood that, he understood the culture here, and he said he liked the town. And he said, as long as I'm in the middle, just help me get towards the middle. So, I think we start the conversation tonight. We make the numbers bigger for the next meeting.
This is fine on this paper.
Yeah, this is.
Also, the second page that you've got there, I can't take credit for that. The salary positions, Karen helped me with that. Karen, well, she didn't help me with that, she did that. So, thank you.
Does there need to be some clarity on, or specifics on some of these job descriptions where you see large jumps? I understand that has to do with education and compensation for that.
And I think if you, and Steve and I have had this conversation in the past when we're budgeting, in the past you would look at a position that was paying X amount of dollars, and if you didn't have enough understanding, you wouldn't necessarily know that that person was also working in another department.
Right.
So they really had two separate components coming under.
Which I think is why we're
compensation,
bunched
so
up here.
That's why we're bunched up here.
Each group is an individual handling those jobs.
Also, the clerk
Okay.
position, again, classically, part-time clerk, often also holds another position or more, often administrator or some other position. And so these numbers may be, you're getting the clerk salary, but you don't, that person,
Well, if you
But
look
But
at
isn't
the,
this just Kinnelon?
Yes.
I'm sorry,
Yes,
that's the other
this
chart.
is-
I'm on the other-
this
yeah,
is-
I'm on the
yeah.
other chart. I'm still looking at this.
Oh, okay. That's
But I'm just
Okay.
thinking
Yeah.
through the,
And then I just want to touch upon something that Jim has mentioned on a number of occasions. When does Kinnelon stop becoming Kinnelon? It seems like in a lot of situations, we do shared services where we're basically the purchaser of shared services as opposed to the provider. So in fact, if you have a competent CFO, you may be in a position where that person could have a full-time salary here. You basically have a shared relationship with another municipality. That person gets compensated at maybe a higher rate because of that, and ultimately there may be a benefit for us. That's the
Higher rate
danger of
without
the shared.
benefits, without benefits.
Without benefits too. So there's a couple things that we at least should be considering, but I'm gonna ask that the personnel committee just once again take it under advisement, work with the finance chairman to see what proposals are, and then we have some conversation and close.
What I think I'm gonna do, if anybody has any other ideas, let me know. To at least initially attack this, is I'm gonna break down each position, get the high and the low salary, compare it to, towns around us, and then figure out where we sit. And maybe I may have to meet individually with all these employees and see, what else do you do? Are there extra jobs that you think are outside your job description? Do you get benefits, things like that? And try and factor that all together.
And just to be clear, just because the town has made a decision to compensate people at a very high rate doesn't mean that we need to go down that path either. I mean, if the market is the market, we have to look at that. I mean, I'm hiring staff accountants basically at $45,000. If another company's offering them $60,000, I say, well, good luck to you. I think
But
the
the other company
market
gets the good ones then.
well, not all the time.
Right.
They get the more expensive ones, that's for sure. Okay, but listen, I think that, and this came out of really Tuesday night's meeting, I just think we need to acknowledge the current staff here, thank them for doing, I think, some exceptional work, and once again, look at, what we can do to potentially recognize people for their efforts. So,
Agreed.
okay, anything else for new business?
I don't know if it's old business or new business. If you're meeting with John about those other items, you still have not made a decision on the Fox architectural building evaluations. I don't remember exactly what we call
I
that.
thought we were looking for a couple of other.
That's what he said he was gonna
Well,
call
it's
around,
right.
and I don't remember where that ended up. But I just was thinking, if we're gonna be looking at adding outlets and stuff in this room and phone jacks, that there's a broader picture to be had there.
Okay, anything else for open this evening? If not, I want to thank the public for coming out and participating. We always appreciate that. We are going to go into closed session. The attorney's going to frame the
Mayor,
motion for us.
Generally, we would be going into closed session. I see here for the purposes of contracts, but other items may, of course, and various property acquisition matters. We will be in closed session for approximately 30 minutes. My understanding is that when we emerge from closed session, we may or may not take action, but of course the council reserves that right. And Mayor, you seek a motion at your pleasure.
Someone offer that, please?
Yeah.
So moved.
Second?
Give Lincoln my regards.
Okay.
We are back in open. We have no items that need additional action in open. I will ask if there's any other items come before the mayor and council this evening. If not, I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
I'll ask for a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Yeah.
All right.
Karen, you have a copy?